I'm bad at my job, boys. We started
This is why you'll never make it.
exactly. This is why I'm the worst producer ever. There's no reason here for me. Tokens taking tickets at the ticket booth. We got Drap with us this time. We got the Bogan reacting to the British guy who's half black and actually American that lives in Dubai and Romania. This is Andrew Tate the third time on Piers Morgan. Did either of you guys watch either of the first two appearances? I know me and Ippo did on this show, but other than that,
No,
I've
sir,
seen
I
a clip
didn't even
here, a
watch
clip
the fourth
there,
one.
but yeah, hardly. Not really. This is mostly going to be new for me, I guess.
okay. So I haven't seen any
This
of
is
this shit, but this.
this is the second time.
So he was on the first time, and they argued and butted heads a shit ton. The second time he came on and kind of like supported his salient facts. It wasn't in person. This is the second time in person conversation.
Yeah, I think I saw the second one, which was a bit less controversial.
Yeah.
Well,
So this is Andrew Tate on the problems of modern men and the need for masculinity.
Welcome back to this special edition of Piers Morgan Uncensored with Andrew Tate, one-on-one. So Ash Sarkar, who's a lively contributor to this programme, has tweeted, Andrew Tate, who you're interviewing about free speech, thinks women are a man's property. We shouldn't be allowed to drive. Boasts about only dating teenagers to imprint on them. Misogynists are discussing whether they're in Afghanistan or a swanky London studio.
Am I a misogynist, am I? I don't think, first of the things she said, I don't even truly believe. If you're prepared to listen to me, I'll explain to you exactly why she's completely and utterly wrong. If you can go through the points again, she said,
do you think you're a misogynist?
Absolutely not. I'm not a misogynist on any level. This is one of those buzzwords they just throw at people randomly. Homophobic, racist, misogynist, they just throw it out at people.
What is your view of women?
I'm a realist.
What is your real view of women?
I absolutely and utterly love women. I adore women. I have good relationships with women. Not a single woman has come up to me on the street since I've been canceled. Not a single one has said anything negative. Every single one of them has said positive things. You're a traditional male. I wish more men were like you. You understand your masculine roles. You understand what you're supposed to do. You understand you're supposed to protect women. You're exactly the kind of man I'd be looking for. I've never had a negative interaction with a female ever since I've been dubbed the biggest misogynist.
Where is the...
Please let me finish. I'm sorry, Piers. Also, there's not been a single woman who's accused me of a crime, not a single woman who's accused me of rape, not a single woman who's come out and said anything from my entire past of 36 years I've done anything wrong ever. Anybody else with my level of fame, any footballer, any other movie star, at least has people who've come out and accused them of rape, X, Y, Z. I have no woman who's come out and ever said I've hurt her, no woman who's come out and ever said I've done damage to her or been horrible to her. Everybody who ever interacted with me has said I've been a nice person. All of them. So this random Twitter nobody who seems to know so much is full of...
All right, you've responded to her tweet.
Yeah.
Honestly, that shit's fucking salient, honestly. And I know everybody's gonna be like, well, all of the women that have come out against him for rape are now out speaking. Actually, almost all of them that supposedly have come out and they're using their names as victim 1, victim 2, victim 3, all have come out and said that they're family with Andrew Tate and they disagree with their name being used at all.
Boom.
In the current court case that is just happening now.
Okay.
It's,
Levels.
oh,
Shit.
Drap turned off his fucking camera. Drap.
Did we lose him? Must be that Australian internet. The ping got to him.
Bing.
Bing.
He's there. Drap. I know you can't hear us because you unplugged your headphones.
Okay.
Give me one.
Okay.
All right, there we go. Still there.
But yeah, like this shit's crazy. So I think them using misogynist and racist, as we've been talking about all night, using those words.
I agree. Buzzwords. Just
Took
just discredit whatever you're about to say, and they're just gonna paint you in a negative light. That's the word they just used at you. But I get it. I get where he's coming from.
like you can't just discredit somebody because they're saying something here or there or whatever. Like that's not how things work. Don't just discredit them and label them as something. Actually discredit what the fuck they're saying. That is how you actually handle a situation like this. You can't just discredit somebody by saying you're a racist or you're a piece of shit. Like, when has anybody ever been called a piece of shit and oh yeah, all of a sudden they're just seen that way? It's not how anything fucking works in the world.
I don't know.
Shit's insane.
I like though it's an eloquent response. Like he just shut it down, didn't get talked over. He's like, I have a point. I'm making my point.
Yep, give me 2 seconds, man.
Stop and turn it into a soundbite that you can use against me. Like, no, here's all of it.
Yeah, let me finish what I'm saying.
She's a liar.
But where is the line for you between masculinity, which I will always defend, and which I agree with? I think a lot of women like men to be masculine, and what has become known as toxic masculinity. And the reason I ask you is that you are engaged in that debate with men all the time. Where is the line for you where men shouldn't cross, where the behavior should be kept within a line?
Please define toxic masculinity.
Where do you think that line is?
Dude, it all. Listen,
'Cause-
even you could look back at the past and you can look at some of the worst people, like the organized crime, whatever, bro. People still had a code. They just don't fuck with women and children. So, I
Yep.
mean, like, there's just a certain level of base morality that everybody should follow. But other than that, man, as long as you're not actively hurting someone or anybody, you know what I mean? Like, who's to stop you from doing whatever you want to do?
No, and you guys have heard me call myself white trash Andrew Tate all the fucking time. But in the grand scheme of things, that's exactly what it is. I think when there's toxicity added to anything, it's when it's hateful. And nothing he said, even now, is hateful. That is where toxic masculinity starts. That's where hating starts. That's where the entire problem is if you hate, that is where the problem is.
Well, you tell me what you think it crosses a line from being a masculine, good man to a bad man.
There's no such thing as too much masculinity if it's genuinely masculine. Genuine masculinity is not out here to hurt people. It's absolutely the opposite. It's out here to protect. And when bad things happen, they call traditionally masculine men. If you need a firefighter, you need a masculine man. When you call the police because of the problem you had, you want masculine men. And as soon as a woman or a man is in trouble, when you look for backup, you look for masculine men. And masculine men have a duty to provide and protect those they care about. We have a duty to do things we don't feel like doing because we know we're supposed to do them. And that's why we stayed in the Titanic and died. Those were masculine men.
Where did you get your views about this from?
This is what I grew up with. It's the family I grew up around. And
Your father, your mother?
Yeah,
both?
and the world I lived in. And I think a lot of the things I'm saying now about masculinity and how people should act in the world, how the world should function, were considered completely normal and accepted by everybody only 20 years ago. I think the world's just lost its mind. For me to stand up and say a man should protect a woman now gets to be called a misogynist and canceled. If I said that 10 years ago, everyone would say, duh. And what's funny is, everyone who argues against me and says men shouldn't protect women, especially all the feminists, if they were with their boyfriend and a man broke into their house, guess who they'd expect to go downstairs?
And he's fucking right.
Yeah,
He-
can't even-
he-
can't even argue with that.
Reach.
He's
Yeah,
fucking
preach.
right. It's the exact
argue
people
that.
that would need to go downstairs. It's the exact thing that everybody says. Oh, women hate it. No, it's not. It's just not.
They go themselves? Are they going to Afghanistan? No, we send men to do these things. So
Well,
all
we
this
send
garbage.
women in the armed forces too.
You have to generalize when you make points.
There are many courageous
Exceptions,
people. women in
exceptions
the
do
armed
not
forces.
disprove the rule.
No, but you've got to concede there are many courageous women serving in the armed forces.
Absolutely and utterly, completely correct. But by and large, traditionally,
Proportionally.
soldiers are men. Exceptions do not disprove the rule.
Well, it's not an exception. It's a fact that there are a lot of women now in the armed forces.
Correct. But if you were to take the average soldier, they are a male. If you're allowed to say who's a male and who isn't nowadays, I'm assuming their gender, I apologize. If you were to take the average soldier, they're a male, which means that
Andrew Tate, what is a woman?
Oh, Jesus.
I kind of like how he brought that up.
Yeah, I like it. He's just spitting facts, man. You can't have people tell you things that just don't make sense. And everything that he's saying makes sense, but I don't want to be labeled a misogynist. Like
At the end of the day, what is the criteria as far as? It's not even worth getting into. But
dude, they're trying to
I'll-
do
I-
to men what they did to Trump voters in fucking 2016. If you
Yeah.
believe this much of what he's saying, you're a piece of shit. You're just
Mhm.
fucking spreading all this nonsense. You're a fucking misogynist. I'm sure you're fucking shitty to your girlfriend, whatever. Like, no, but this guy brings up some valid fucking points. Like,
And yeah,
Exceptions are
like, and
the
people
female
can say he
soldier.
goes too hard. Maybe he does, but look at the
has
people
to.
going hard on the other side of the spectrum. They're going
Dude.
way harder than
And,
he is.
and
if-
being
at the very least
exaggerative.
as hard.
And being exaggerative is a point to prove exactly what he's saying, not necessarily disproving what he's saying. Like when you exaggerate your point, normally it makes you fall in line more with what you're saying. It makes people understand that the center of what you're saying is more likely where you believe, not the extremist version of what you're saying. If you say a base version, then you're either going to be whitewashed or you're going to be seen as an extremist because you feel like you don't have the balls to say what you're saying. He's going extreme.
which
He's
because there's
going
a lower
extreme,
percent
but
of
he's
them, a lower
backing it up.
probability. Exceptions do not disprove the rules. Men do the fighting.
For the most
Right now
part.
in Ukraine, men cannot leave. Women are allowed to leave because men have to fight on the front line and women are allowed to go to Dubai. That is how it is.
What do you say to young men
Where does
who
that
come
fit
to you?
in?
What?
Yeah.
I was just say, where does that fit in? You can
It's,
keep going.
it's the fucking truth.
For advice? You feel lost. You don't really know where they fit into society.
I say that life as a man is exceptionally difficult. I say the most beautiful and the most terrifying thing about being a man is you're born without value. Society doesn't care about you. You're only going to be cared about based on how useful you are. You have the chance to build yourself up and become a superhero if you're prepared to do the hard work and be indefatigable enough to never quit. But if you're going to stand around and wait for a handout, nobody's going to ever respect you. And I think that a lot of people have forgotten about how difficult and how competitive it is as a man. We're always in constant competition with each other. And it's your duty as a man to stand up and say, I want to be as important and strong and good-hearted and God-fearing as possible. And I need to work hard to achieve those things.
Dame Sheila Hancock says we've become too over-emotional as a society, crying too much about everything. Has she got a point?
She's completely right. And the
Do you guys feel that way?
Fucking-lutely. Everything he just described is only, like, this is only coming to light now because we've gotten so soft as people that, like, now people have to go up and remind you what the fuck made a man 50 years ago, you know?
So, whatchamacallit, he's probably going to go into this, and I'm not trying to say what he's going to say before he says it, but I'm gonna call it to action right now. He's going to say that men should cry to men. You should be the shoulder for your wife. You should be the shoulder for your girlfriend. But crying in front of them will devalue you to them because they're not going to see you as the strong individual that they expect you to be. Now, I understand his point, but I also disagree with his point on some factors. Like allowing somebody to see slight weakness could also become a strength because then you're willing to be vulnerable. But also at that point, it does also devalue you as a person as well.
There's a lot of variables when it comes to that, I feel.
Yeah, it also
It's a
depends on
lot
the
of
person.
variables. Oh, listen, it's a lot of variables, but you got to think of, like, there was a time and a place for masculinity, and the problem is the world that we've created at this point doesn't necessarily have a place for it. It's like a lost art. You know what I mean? It's like there's no need for you to have 13 fucking kids because you don't live on a farm and you can't use the kids as child labor to run your farm. So, like, it doesn't make sense to have 13 kids. That's why people have 2 or 3 or 2.4, whatever the average is in America. You know what I mean? And that's just a sign of the times. And dude,
I think it's 1.7
Zach, you and I were
now.
both 1.6 in Quebec. It's been 1.6 forever, so it's definitely falling, and we have an aging population. But again, like, dude, Zach, you and I were both raised by women at the end of the day, so it's kind of, not everyone was shown this role model example of what a man should be and this and that. But again, it's not I'm not going to say it's not useful, but it's not as mandatory as it was, because 50 years ago, if you didn't have a man in your house was destined to fail because a woman wasn't able to do what they could today. If that makes sense.
You also didn't have access to information like we do now, where even if you don't have a father.
Access to opportunity is what we're saying, like,
Okay, fair. No,
you know what I mean? Like, it was hard for a woman in the fucking 50s to be a single income household because, their jobs didn't pay as much. I get it. I'm not trying to get into feminist bullshit, but, like, these are just facts across the board. But like, it plays into why this is becoming a big heated topic of debate recently, and why he is put in the spotlight in front of us. People got soft. They forgot what fucking, you know what I mean? Hard times make hard people. Hard fucking people make better times. Better times produce soft people, and soft people make hard times. It's the fucking cycle. It's gonna happen again.
And it is.
Dangerous thing about overly emotional men is that they're dangerous. They're genuinely dangerous. This is what's crazy. All these people who talk about toxic masculinity and how bad it is for men to be traditionally masculine.
You want to see fucking dangerous?
I'll fucking show you. He doesn't feel like doing because it is his duty to do them. He charges into the building because it is his duty. Not because he feels like it, because it is his duty. We're now teaching the new generation of men that they don't have duty and they can just act on their feelings and act how they feel, and they don't have to act as a man should. Do you know what happens when you get men who just act how they feel? You get school shooters, you get violence, you get rapists. Men who do not control their emotions are dangerous. If you find a man who is stoic, he's not going to hurt people. He's going to sit and think about his actions very carefully, and he's going to be a good man who protects and provides for his family.
He said the same exact thing Jordan Peterson did. Jordan Peterson said, be a monster, but also be able to fucking control it.
Otherwise, you get people like Myth, Dimebag, 5 books. It's no, I'm not gonna go on that one. You know
Oh,
what I
but
mean.
it's-
very good point.
It's honestly,
And they know who they are, and
it's
they know I'm
honestly
right.
the fucking truth though. Like you look at this shit, and
Be
it's
open with it.
fucking ridiculous.
Especially that little weasel myth fucking just disappears out of nowhere. Right? He's the perfect candidate for what this guy's saying.
What all it comes down to is recognizing your own potential. And you know, as a man, you can literally do quote unquote anything you set your mind to. So it's just, you know, realize you have limitless potential. You're a fucking tool, but you're only as good as the hands of the craftsman that the tool is in, and you are also that craftsman, if that makes sense. Like,
Well,
we all have bodies. We could all fucking work in a warehouse moving boxes, but like, you can be more than that if you just fucking apply yourself to do it, you know?
yeah.
You don't have to be a dumb tool. You could be a smart tool.
Find a man who just acts out on impulse and does whatever he feels like, you're going to find a dangerous man. Sitting here telling men to cry more and act with their feelings and it's okay to feel this way, that way, etc., and have no self-control. That is why we have the problems we have in the world. Absolutely not.
Also, that is going to lead to when somebody comes up with a gun next to you and your wife, that's going to lead to you feeling like you have to worry about your life before theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the most basic fucking part of biology. It's your job to defend. Just, it is what it is. Like, either you're going to defend that person or you're not. Are they worth your life or are they not? And if they're not worth your life, then they shouldn't be a part of your life. There are people that I've met online that are more important in my life than people that I would have taken a bullet for 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
for sure.
fuck yeah, yeah. That's the circle of life, man. Not
And utterly
anymore.
wrong. So when they talk about toxic masculinity, they have it completely inversed on its head, completely and utterly wrong. We need to be teaching stoicism. We need to be teaching young men to understand that the world is very, very difficult. It's hard to be a man. You're going to feel bad sometimes. You need to suck it up and perform anyway. Not to sit there and cry your eyes out or blame other people.
Tough
or
being a
cop out.
woman too in modern society.
It's certainly tough being a woman, but I'm not a woman, so why would I speak on issues I do not understand? I'm a man.
You could feel an
Andrew Tate, what is a woman?
I am not a woman. That's the best fucking answer, dude. That's all you can say. You can't piss anybody off. I'm not labeling anybody. I'm telling you, I'm not a fucking woman.
empathy for women.
I feel empathy, certainly, but I do not understand their issues.
See, a lot of men come up to me and they admire you. I've got to say, a lot of women I've spoken to don't admire. They think you represent misogyny. They think when they hear you not commit to saying the Taliban shouldn't be banning women from university education, well, why can't he just say that's wrong?
Well, firstly, that's not my experience. I experience the absolute and utter opposite of that. Secondly, it's because it's a moral point I'm making. My moral point is I speak on things I understand. I speak on experiences I've had.
Would
I
you
speak
believe
on-
in equality?
I speak, yes. I
Do
speak
you?
on, sure. I speak on subjects I know intimately. I do not feel qualified. I'm a realist, and I do not feel qualified to sit and discuss the gender laws in Afghanistan. I have not been to Afghanistan. I have not researched the subject thoroughly. I'm not going to sit here and say how the Taliban should be running their country. It's nothing to do with me. I find it quite flattering, Piers, that although, you know, I understand I'm monumentally influential, the most Google man on earth, etc., I find it very flattering that you think I have some kind of control over the domestic policy of Afghanistan. But I assure you I don't. I don't.
No,
So it's nothing to do with
I'm
it.
not asking you to have a view on having influence of a domestic policy.
That's how everybody should be.
No, people talk before they even have an opinion, bro. They're just repeating talking points or whatever they heard or read, but they don't have. They're not associated with these people whatsoever. You know, they're worried about the women being oppressed and this and that in Afghanistan. Like, dude, I worked shoulder to shoulder. I worked for a family of Afghanis here, and like I got to witness firsthand the way they treat women, and it is fucking again being a raised by I'm an only child raised by a single parent who was a woman here in North America. I have very different worldviews than these fucking people, and like there were points where we would butt heads over things, you know, like, and they just don't understand. They're like, oh, just tell your mother to shut the fuck up, blah blah blah. I'm like, dude, it's her house, it's not my house. It doesn't work like that, dude. I wasn't raised in the desert. I'm not trying to be racist, but that's not how shit works over here on this
Some
side
people
of the
just
planet.
live on their own completely different wavelengths, and
Yeah, but
to
we're
them everything makes sense.
But we're all fucking twined, and you pass these people on the street, and you don't know the way that they'll, you know, treat a fucking woman. Like, it's fucked up, man. I've heard some
it's
stories.
really hard to pick them out until you actually sit down and talk to them and pick their brain.
And
get a
it's not
sense
just
of who they
one
are.
section of people. It's not just one specific ideology. You could be a white dude who beats his wife. You could be a fucking black dude who beats his wife and does unspeakable
Maybe
shit.
for good
Like,
reason. I'm not saying that's. No, I'm joking. But
Hey, listen, there's a spectrum. There's the wife beater, and then there's the dude who's completely pussy whipped, and you got to find yourself somewhere in the middle. Like,
exactly.
it's all you could do.
Yeah, I'm sure
there's the
Taliban
pussy
couldn't
whipped
give a
guy
shit
who
what either of them say about it.
constantly gets beat by his wife and does nothing about it because he's a pussy.
And that was
he
a
goes through
stereotype
life.
for how many years during the 50s and 60s that men were getting beat with frying pans because they did this or they did that.
Yeah,
or
and
they said,
you laugh about it. You're not supposed to care about the dude getting hit by his wife. Like,
Neither
he's
is
a man.
the doctor.
He can beat her. He
that-
can do whatever he
that
wants.
guy-
Put her in her place.
Exactly. You're on the wrong no matter what. It's a lose-lose situation if you're in a situation like that.
It's just curious to me that it's an easy win for you to make women think you're not anti them, to say that when they're not given equality, as the women in Afghanistan clearly are not, because they're not allowed to go to university now as of today, that is clearly unequal, unfair. We should all be able to agree that that is wrong.
Well, certainly as a realist.
Even you, tough guy Andrew
It's
Tate.
not tough guy. I am a professional. As a professional, I can state that yes, it is not equal. Yes, it is not fair. That is obvious for anybody. I'm not saying those things are not true. What I'm saying is it's nothing to do with me.
Right, okay, but you made a concession you think is wrong then.
I said it's unequal and it's unfair.
Yeah, so wrong.
Well, perhaps.
Force yourself, Andrew.
No, perhaps it's wrong under certain moral guidelines, but
that's not a point to challenge him on. He's saying it doesn't have to do with me. Something unmoral
Exactly.
and unequal doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong.
This is the problem when you start getting into these, like, I want to call these like global issues, because as humans, you know Dunbar's number. You're not supposed to be in a tribe of more than 150 people. You can't remember more than 150 names to faces or whatnot. And now you're trying to tell me about some poor woman's plight in the desert on the other side of the planet. Like, how about you focus on local things? There's a reason that, like, the American government works the way it does, and you have individual states, and you can all vote on your different shit. Like, if you don't agree with something where you live, you can move to the next state. You know what I mean? You're free to go over there where you're allowed to, you can consensually fuck a 15-year-old instead of a 16-year-old, like whatever, but that doesn't make it right or wrong, but it's just a different thing.
It's the same
Wait,
shit.
what state is this?
And it's
I'm just using it as an example, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
laws differ from
didn't
state to
care
state,
anyway.
and you have the option to, go somewhere where the laws line up with your values and your beliefs and where you're allowed to express yourself or whatever.
And like that shit makes so much sense when you hear the arguments against feminism now. Is you guys are sitting here arguing and you're fighting for equality. You already have it. You're above it. And most
Yeah,
people will
that's
say that.
Yeah.
And then they'll say
in certain situations they have more than equality. Not all of them, but there are certain situations where
the next sentence that most people say will be, if you were fighting against problems in Saudi Arabia, in fucking Iraq, in Afghanistan, we would stand up next to you. And that's honestly the fucking truth. That is true inequality. They're being treated less than. You are not being treated less than. Understand where the problem is. It's just...
But Andrew Tate brings up good fucking points, whereas there are situations in everyday life in fucking Western, civilization and first world countries where men get treated as the lesser. You've experienced them yourself. Like a custody battle, for example, is a perfect example of something where men are just treated as the pieces of shit. You could, you know what I mean? You can have more money than your spouse. You can provide a better loving household than your spouse, but no, she's the mother. She gets the kids 5 days a week and you only get to see them 2.
No, it's fucking asinine. So much of it's asinine. This has been Andrew Tate on Piers Morgan talking about the problems of modern men and the need for masculinity. Make sure to check out HelloFresh. Use the dumbass coupon code that they decided to give me so that way you don't starve and gain PTSD like I did, because nobody fucking wants that shit. We'll see you fucking next time. Make sure to feed yourself.